The text message wasn't meant for me. That much was obvious from the moment I read it on Monet's phone, which she'd left face up on our marble kitchen counter like a loaded gun. I'll be home late tonight. Need to make sure I didn't marry the wrong man. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My wife of 7 years had apparently developed quite the sense of humor. Either that, or she'd finally grown tired of pretending our marriage was anything more than an expensive piece of performance art. I'm Julian Carrington, and I own 3 of the most successful art galleries in Dallas. Not that anyone at the country club parties would know it. They're too busy staring at my wife's perfectly sculpted everything to notice the guy writing the checks. Monet Sinclair Carrington, interior designer to the wealthy and shameless, social media influencer with 200,000 followers, and apparently comparison shopper for husbands. The anniversary dinner reservations were for 8. It was already 7:30, and Monet was upstairs getting ready for what I'd assumed was our celebration. Silly me. Honey, I called up the spiral staircase of our downtown Dallas penthouse. Your phone's buzzing. Just leave it, she called back, her voice carrying that particular tone she reserved for discussing anything related to me, somewhere between boredom and mild irritation. I picked up the phone. The message was in a thread with someone named V, but when I scrolled up, I saw other messages that made my stomach drop into my handmade Italian shoes. Damien says he's ready whenever you are. The lawyer thinks you can get at least half of everything. Just remember what we talked about. Timing is everything. Damien. Damien Ford, to be exact. Monet's high school boyfriend, the tortured artist who'd crawled out of whatever rock he'd been hiding under about 6 months ago. Suddenly, he was at every gallery opening, every charity auction, every place my wife happened to be. What a coincidence. I set the phone down carefully and walked to our floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Dallas. The city sparkled below us, all those lights representing dreams and ambitions, and people who probably weren't discovering their spouse's infidelity via misdirected text message on their anniversary. Julian? Monet appeared at the top of the stairs, and I had to admit she looked stunning. Black dress that probably cost more than most people's rent, hair swept up to show off the diamond earrings I'd bought her last Christmas, makeup applied with the precision of a Renaissance master. You look beautiful, I said, and meant it. That was always the problem with Monet. She was genuinely breathtaking. It just turned out that beauty and loyalty weren't sold as a matching set. She descended the stairs like she was walking a red carpet, which, knowing Monet, she was probably imagining she was. Are you ready? We don't want to be late. Actually, we might have a problem. I held up her phone. You got a text. For just a moment, her perfect composure cracked. I saw fear flash across her face before she recovered. Oh? What did it say? Something about making sure you didn't marry the wrong man. I watched her carefully. Care to explain? She laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. Oh, that's just Veronica being dramatic. You know how she gets about relationships. Veronica Legrand, Monet's best friend and fellow social climber. They'd been thick as thieves since college, bonding over their shared love of expensive things and other people's business. Right, I said. And Damien? How does he fit into Veronica's relationship advice? This time she couldn't hide the panic. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do? I scrolled through the messages, reading them aloud. Damien says he's ready whenever you are. The lawyer thinks you can get at least half of everything. Just remember what we talked about. Timing is everything. I looked up at her. Want to try again? Monet's face went through several expressions before settling on defiant. Fine. Yes. I've been talking to a lawyer. Can you blame me? When's the last time you touched me, Julian? When's the last time you looked at me like I was more than just another piece of art in your collection? Is that what this is about? Attention? This is about the fact that I'm 37 years old, and I feel like I'm dying of boredom. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who's more passionate about a painting than he is about his own wife? There was some truth to that, I had to admit. I did love my work, but I'd loved her too once upon a time. Before I realized that loving Monet was like trying to hold water, no matter how tightly you gripped, it just slipped through your fingers. So you decided to reconnect with your ex-boyfriend and plan our divorce behind my back? I haven't done anything yet. Yet. I nodded. Well, that's reassuring. She moved closer, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, something French and expensive that I'd bought her. Julian, we can fix this. We can go to counseling, take a trip, whatever you want. What I want, I said quietly, is a wife who doesn't shop for my replacement while planning our anniversary dinner. Her phone buzzed again. This time, I was close enough to see the message appear on the screen. Hotel room is ready, room 237. Can't wait to celebrate your freedom. Monet snatched the phone away, but it was too late. Freedom, I repeated. That's an interesting word choice. Julian, I can explain. You know what? Don't. I think I understand perfectly. I walked to the closet and grabbed my jacket. You go ahead and celebrate your freedom. I've got some business to take care of. Where are you going? To see a lawyer of my own. I paused at the door. Oh, and Monet, next time you want to plan a betrayal, maybe don't leave the evidence lying around. It's very amateur. I left her standing in our penthouse, probably already texting Damien that there'd been a change of plans. What she didn't know was that I'd been expecting this for months. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the way she'd started treating me like an inconvenience in my own home. I wasn't blind, just patient. But patience, like marriage, has its limits. My lawyer, Samir Patel, had the kind of calm demeanor that came from 20 years of watching wealthy people destroy each other in the most creative ways possible. His office overlooked downtown Dallas from the 40th floor, and he kept a bottle of very good scotch in his desk for occasions like this. How long have you suspected? He asked, pouring 2 glasses. Months, but I wanted to be sure before I did anything permanent. And now you're sure. Now I'm sure. I showed him the screenshots I'd taken of Monet's messages before leaving the house. The question is, what can we do about it? Samir studied the messages, his expression never changing. Quite a lot, actually. Texas is a community property state, but adultery can affect the division of assets, especially if we can prove she was planning to defraud you. Define, prove. Well, these messages are a good start. If we can establish a pattern of deception, document her relationship with this Damien Ford, show that she was planning to hide assets or manipulate the divorce proceedings. He shrugged. Let's just say the court takes a dim view of that sort of behavior. What do you need from me? Access to all your financial accounts, a list of assets, and most importantly, documentation of everything. Every text, every lie, every secret meeting. We're going to build a case that shows exactly what kind of person your wife really is. I spent the next 3 hours in Samir's office, going through 7 years of marriage with the precision of an accountant. Joint accounts, credit cards, the penthouse, the cars, her business, my galleries, everything we'd built together, or rather, everything I'd built that she'd helped spend. She's going to be surprised, Samir said, as I prepared to leave. Most people don't expect their spouse to be quite so thorough. Monet's always underestimated me. She thinks I'm just the boring guy who pays for her lifestyle. Are you prepared for this to get ugly? I thought about that text message, about months of lies and late nights and the way she'd looked me in the eye while planning my betrayal. It's already ugly, Samir. I'm just leveling the playing field. When I got home at midnight, Monet's car wasn't in the garage. Her anniversary dress was in a pile on our bedroom floor, and she'd left a note on my pillow. Staying at Veronica's tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Then I called my assistant, Riley Chen, even though it was late. Boss, everything okay? Riley was 27, brilliant with technology, and had been running the day-to-day operations of my galleries for the past 2 years. She also had absolutely no patience for drama, which made her perfect for what I had in mind. I need you to come in early tomorrow. We've got some work to do. What kind of work? The kind that requires changing passwords on every account we share with my wife. There was a pause. Oh, that kind of work. Should I bring coffee? Bring lots of coffee, and maybe some popcorn. This is going to be entertaining. The next morning, Riley and I systematically locked Monet out of everything. Bank accounts, credit cards, streaming services, even her rideshare apps. Every password changed, every automatic payment canceled, every digital connection severed. This feels very satisfying, Riley said, typing rapidly on her laptop. Should I feel bad about how satisfying this feels? Probably, but I won't tell if you won't. My phone started ringing at 10:30. Monet, calling from Veronica's number. Julian, what the hell did you do? My cards aren't working. Good morning to you too, dear. How was your night at Veronica's? Don't play games with me. I tried to buy coffee and my card was declined. Then I tried the other card and the other one and you discovered that actions have consequences. Fascinating. You can't just cut me off. I'm your wife. Are you? Because last night it sounded like you were shopping for an upgrade. I told you I can explain. Actually, you can explain it to my lawyer, Samir Patel downtown. I'm sure Veronica can give you a ride, since your rideshare account seems to be having technical difficulties. I hung up and turned to Riley, who was grinning at her laptop screen. What's that look for? I may have also canceled her appointment at that fancy salon she goes to, and her personal trainer, and her massage therapist. She looked up at me innocently. My finger slipped multiple times. You're terrible. I'm efficient. There's a difference. The phone rang again. This time it was Veronica. Julian, honey, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Veronica. Just clarity. For the first time in months, everything is perfectly clear. Monet is devastated. She made a mistake, but she loves you. She loves my bank account. There's a difference. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? Planning someone's betrayal and then acting surprised when they defend themselves. I paused. Tell me, Veronica, how long have you been helping my wife cheat on me? Silence. That's what I thought. Give Monet a message for me. If she wants to talk, she can make an appointment with my lawyer. Otherwise, she can enjoy her freedom. I hung up and looked at Riley, who was practically bouncing in her chair. What now? Now we wait for the fireworks. We didn't have to wait long. At noon, Monet showed up at my main gallery downtown, looking like she'd slept in her car. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, and she was wearing yesterday's clothes. We need to talk, she announced, storming past the receptionist. I'm sorry, ma'am, but Mr. Carrington is in a meeting. I'm his wife. Not for much longer, I said, emerging from my office. The gallery was full of customers, other dealers, and staff. Perfect. What can I do for you, Monet? You can stop this ridiculous tantrum and talk to me like an adult. Tantrum? I looked around at the crowd that had gathered. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife thinks that discovering her adultery and protecting my assets is a tantrum. What do you think? Monet's face went white. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. Would you like me to read the text messages out loud? I have screenshots. Julian, please? Please what? Please continue to subsidize your affair? Please pretend I don't know you've been planning to divorce me and take half of everything I've worked for? Please keep playing the fool while you and your high school boyfriend laugh about how stupid I am? She was crying now, but I felt nothing. Maybe that made me cold, but I'd used up all my sympathy over the past 6 months of lies. "I need money," she whispered. "I can't even get home." I pulled out my wallet and handed her a $20 bill. "There's a bus stop on the corner." The gallery was silent. Monet stared at the 20 like it was a snake. "This is who you really are," she said finally. "Cold, calculating. No wonder you what? Cheated? Lied? Plotted behind my back?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You want to know who I really am, Monet? I'm the man who loved you enough to give you everything, and smart enough to take it all back when you threw it away." She grabbed the 20 and ran. Riley appeared at my elbow. "That was brutal. That was just the opening act. The thing about destroying someone's life is that it requires patience and attention to detail. Lucky for me, I'd spent 7 years learning exactly how Monet's world worked, and more importantly, what would happen if that world suddenly stopped working. It started with the small things. Her favorite boutique called to inform her that her account was past due and they'd need payment before her next purchase. Her personal shopper at Neiman Marcus left a voicemail about resolving some billing issues. The exclusive gym where she taught yoga classes to rich housewives suddenly had concerns about her membership status. "You're enjoying this way too much," Riley observed, watching me work through my contact list. "I'm enjoying this exactly the right amount. What's next?" Now we wait for her to make a mistake. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, my doorman called to let me know that Mrs. Carrington was in the lobby with a man, asking to come up. "Tell them I'm not available." "She says she has keys, sir." She had keys. I changed the locks this morning. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Damien Ford calling from Monet's number. "You need to stop this shit, man. Monet doesn't deserve what you're doing to her." "And what exactly am I doing to her?" "You know what you're doing. Cutting off her money, humiliating her in public, acting like some kind of vindictive asshole. I'm acting like a man whose wife cheated on him with a washed-up artist who can't pay his own rent." Silence. "Oh, did she not mention that part? About how you're 3 months behind on your studio rent? About how you've been borrowing money from her for the past 4 months? Interesting. That's temporary. It's about to become permanent. See, Damien, here's the thing about my wife. Sorry, my soon-to-be ex-wife. She's attracted to success. Money, status, power. Take those things away, and you're just another broke middle-aged man with delusions of artistic grandeur. You don't know anything about me. I know you're 41 years old, you haven't sold a painting in 2 years, and you're living in a studio apartment that smells like turpentine and desperation. I also know that Monet's credit cards aren't working anymore, which means your sugar mama just became significantly less sweet. I could hear Monet in the background, trying to grab the phone. "This isn't over," Damien said. "You're right, it's just getting started." The next morning, I had Riley compile a dossier on Damien Ford. It made for fascinating reading. 2 DUIs, a bankruptcy from 5 years ago, a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend, and a trail of unpaid debts stretching back to his art school days. "This guy's a real winner," Riley said, sliding the folder across my desk. "How did your wife even find him again?" "Facebook, probably. Nothing says midlife crisis like reconnecting with your high school boyfriend." "What are you going to do with this?" I smiled. "I'm going to let Monet discover it for herself." That afternoon, I had lunch with Marcus Webb, who owned half the commercial real estate in the Arts District. Marcus and I had done business for years, and he owed me a few favors. "Damien Ford," he said, reviewing the file. "Yeah, I know this guy. Owes me 4 months' rent. I was about to evict him. What if I told you I'd cover his back rent in exchange for a small favor?" "What kind of favor?" "The kind that involves a photographer and perfect timing." Marcus grinned. "I like the way you think." The next day, Monet's world started collapsing in earnest. It began when her biggest client, Patricia Whitman, called to cancel their contract. Patricia was the kind of wealthy widow who treated interior designers like interchangeable accessories, and she had zero tolerance for drama. "I heard about your situation," Patricia told Monet over the phone, loud enough for half the coffee shop to hear. "I simply can't have that kind of instability associated with my home renovation." Then Jennifer Martinez, another client, called with similar concerns. Then Sarah Thompson. By the end of the day, Monet had lost 3 major contracts worth over $200,000. "How is this happening?" she wailed to Veronica, who'd made the mistake of meeting her for drinks at the country club. I happened to be there for a business dinner, close enough to overhear. "Maybe it's just a coincidence." "This isn't a coincidence. Julian is doing this somehow. He's sabotaging me." "How could he be sabotaging you?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." That's when Damien appeared, looking like he'd slept in his car. His usually perfect hair was greasy, his clothes wrinkled, and he had the desperate look of a man whose world was falling apart. "We need to talk," he said, grabbing Monet's arm. "Not here," she hissed, looking around at the other club members who were starting to stare. "Yes, here. They repossessed my car, Monet, and my landlord is threatening to evict me. I need money." "I don't have any money. Julian cut me off, remember?" "Then get it back. Do whatever you have to do, but fix this." "I'm trying, but he won't even talk to me." That's when I decided to make my presence known. I walked over to their table, drink in hand, smiling like I was greeting old friends. "Monet, Veronica, how lovely to see you, and you must be Damien." I extended my hand. "I've heard so much about you." Damien looked like he wanted to punch me, but we were in the middle of the country club dining room, surrounded by Dallas society. He shook my hand. "Julian, I have to say, I admire your work. That series you did 5 years ago before things got difficult for you, very passionate." His face flushed. "Things aren't difficult." "Oh, I'm sorry, I just assumed, given the eviction notice and the car repossession. But I'm sure it's just temporary. Art is such a volatile business, isn't it?" Monet was staring at me with pure hatred, but she couldn't make a scene. Not here, not in front of these people. "Well, I should let you get back to your conversation," I said pleasantly. "Enjoy your evening." I walked away, leaving them to deal with the stares and whispers of everyone who'd overheard. By tomorrow, the story would be all over Dallas society. Monet Carrington's affair with a broke artist who was being evicted. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. "Phase 2 complete. The photographer got some great shots of Damien's meltdown at his studio. Should I send them to the society pages?" I typed back, "Not yet. Let them dig their own grave a little deeper first." Because the thing about watching someone's life fall apart is that you have to let them help. And Monet and Damien were about to help more than they could possibly imagine. The beautiful thing about revenge is that the best kind doesn't require you to do anything illegal or immoral. You just have to create the right conditions and let people destroy themselves. Which is exactly what happened when Monet decided to break into my gallery. It was a Thursday night, and I was working late in my office when the security alarm went off. The cameras showed Monet and Damien in the main gallery, trying to remove a painting from the wall. "Should I call the police?" Riley asked. She'd been staying late to help me prepare for an upcoming auction. "Not yet. Let's see what they're planning." We watched on the security monitors as they struggled with a medium-sized canvas, a piece by a local artist worth about $15,000. Not exactly the crown jewels, but apparently desperate times called for desperate measures. "They're stealing from you," Riley said, incredulous. "They're stealing from themselves, actually. That painting? Monet picked it out 2 years ago. It's been hanging in our bedroom until last week. So technically, it's marital property, which means it's part of the divorce proceedings, which means what they're doing right now is illegal." I waited until they'd actually gotten the painting off the wall before I walked downstairs. Riley followed, her phone ready to record everything. "Can I help you with something?" I asked pleasantly. Monet spun around, clutching the painting like a life preserver. "This is mine. I picked it out." "That's interesting, because according to the receipt, I paid for it, and according to Texas law, it's marital property, which means neither of us can dispose of it until the divorce is finalized." "I need the money," she said, and for the first time since this whole thing started, she sounded genuinely desperate. "Then you should have thought of that before you decided to cheat on me." Damien stepped forward, trying to look threatening. "Just let her take the painting, man. It's not worth the drama." "You know what? You're right. Take it." Both of them looked surprised. "Really?" "Really. In fact, take whatever you want. Consider it a going-away present." Monet's eyes narrowed. "What's the catch?" "No catch, except that Riley here has been recording everything, and theft is still theft, regardless of who's married to whom." Riley held up her phone, smiling sweetly. "Hi, Monet. You look great on camera." "You bastard," Monet breathed. "Probably, but I'm a bastard who's about to own everything you thought you were going to take in the divorce." That's when Damien snapped. He dropped his end of the painting and lunged at me, but I'd been expecting it. I stepped aside, and he crashed into a display case full of small sculptures. The sound of breaking glass filled the gallery. "Oh dear," I said, surveying the damage. "That's going to be expensive." Damien was on the floor, bleeding from a cut on his hand, surrounded by broken art. Monet was crying. Riley was still recording. "I think now would be a good time to call the police," I told Riley. "Already did," she said cheerfully. "They should be here any minute." The next 20 minutes were deeply satisfying. The police arrived, took statements, and arrested both Monet and Damien for breaking and entering, attempted theft, and destruction of property. The local news crew that happened to be in the area got some excellent footage of my wife being led away in handcuffs. "This is all going to be on the news," Riley observed, as we watched the circus from inside the gallery. "Probably. Your wife is going to hate you even more than she already does." "I'm counting on it." The next morning, the story was everywhere. Art gallery owner's wife arrested for theft. Society scandal rocks Dallas Arts District. Interior designers fall from grace. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, friends, business associates, all wanting to know what had happened. I gave the same statement to everyone. "It's a private matter between my wife and myself, and I trust that the legal system will handle it appropriately." Monet and Damien were released on bail that afternoon, but the damage was done. By evening, every society blog in Dallas had picked up the story. The photos of them being arrested were everywhere, along with speculation about their affair and my pending divorce. "You've destroyed her," Veronica said when she called that night. "Completely and utterly destroyed her." "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences of her own choices." "She's lost everything. Her clients, her reputation, her friends." "Her friends? You mean people like you who helped her plan her betrayal?" Silence. "That's what I thought. Tell me, Veronica, how long have you been feeding information to the gossip blogs?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Someone's been giving them inside details about Monet's affair, about Damien's financial problems, about their relationship timeline. Someone who knew all the intimate details." "Why would I—" "Money and revenge. Because Monet's been treating you like hired help for years, and you finally saw a chance to get back at her while making a profit." Another silence, longer this time. "You can't prove anything." "I don't have to. The damage is already done." I hung up and poured myself a drink. Outside my penthouse windows, Dallas sparkled in the darkness, full of people living their lives, chasing their dreams, making their mistakes. Tomorrow, Monet would probably try to contact me again. She'd beg, threaten, or attempt to negotiate. Damien would probably disappear. Men like him always did when things got too difficult. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. The auction house called. They want to know if you're still planning to donate that collection to charity. I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely. In fact, let's make it a public event, something the whole city can attend." Because the final act of this little drama was going to be spectacular. The Phoenix Rising charity auction was my masterpiece. 3 weeks of planning, calling in every favor I'd accumulated over 15 years in the Dallas art world, and creating an event that would be talked about for years. The venue was the Meyerson Symphony Center, elegant and prestigious enough to attract every important person in the city. The cause was arts education for underprivileged children, impossible to argue with. The guest list was a who's who of Dallas society, including several people who'd been gossiping about my marriage for months. What none of them knew was that this wasn't just a charity auction. It was Monet's public execution. "Are you sure about this?" Samir asked as we reviewed the final details in my office. "Once you do this, there's no going back." There was no going back the moment she decided to cheat on me. The media attention is going to be intense. Good. I want everyone to see exactly who she really is. The auction was scheduled for Saturday evening. By Friday afternoon, word had leaked that Monet and Damien were planning to attend. Apparently, Damien had convinced her that showing up would demonstrate they weren't ashamed of their relationship. "They're going to walk right into it," Riley said, reviewing the security arrangements, "like lambs to slaughter." Poetic justice has always appealed to me. Saturday evening arrived with all the drama I'd hoped for. The red carpet was packed with photographers, the symphony hall was filled with Dallas elite, and the anticipation was electric. Everyone knew this was more than just a charity event. It was theater. I arrived alone, naturally, in a perfectly tailored tuxedo that had cost more than most people's cars. The photographers went wild, shouting questions about Monet, about the divorce, about the arrest. I smiled and waved, but said nothing. Inside, the symphony hall had been transformed into an elegant auction house. Dozens of pieces were on display, including several from my personal collection. The centerpiece was a massive abstract painting that Monet had always hated. She'd called it pretentious garbage more than once. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said when I took the stage, "thank you for joining us tonight for this celebration of art and community. As many of you know, this has been a challenging time for me personally, but I believe that art has the power to heal, to transform, and to reveal truth." The crowd was hanging on every word. Tonight, we're not just raising money for arts education. We're celebrating the idea that beauty and truth can emerge from even the most difficult circumstances. That's when Monet and Damien made their entrance. They'd clearly planned their arrival for maximum impact. Monet in a stunning red dress that probably cost more than Damien's rent. Him in a tuxedo that actually fit properly for once. They walked down the center aisle like they owned the place, ignoring the whispers and stares. "Ah," I said from the stage, "and here are two people who know quite a bit about difficult circumstances. My wife, Monet, and her companion, Damien Ford." The murmur from the crowd was audible. "In fact, this seems like the perfect time to share some news. Monet, would you like to tell everyone about your exciting new life plans?" She stood frozen in the aisle, realizing too late that she'd walked into a trap. "No? Well, then allow me." I smiled at the crowd. My wife has decided to pursue new opportunities. She's leaving the interior design business to focus on her relationship with Mr. Ford, who is, as I'm sure you all know, a very talented artist. I gestured to the large screen behind me, which suddenly displayed one of Damien's paintings, a crude, amateur piece that looked like it had been created by a particularly untalented teenager. This is one of Damien's recent works. As you can see, he has a very unique style. The crowd tittered. Damien's face was turning red. But art isn't just about talent, is it? It's about passion. And I think we can all agree that Monet and Damien have demonstrated quite a lot of passion. The screen changed to show a series of photographs. Damien's eviction notice, his repossessed car, his arrest at my gallery. Then came the text messages, blown up large enough for everyone to read. I need to make sure I didn't marry the wrong man. The lawyer thinks you can get at least half of everything. Just remember what we talked about. Timing is everything. The symphony hall was silent. You see, I continued conversationally, marriage is like a work of art. It requires trust, commitment, and mutual respect. When those elements are missing, what you're left with isn't art at all. It's just pretense. Monet was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Damien looked like he wanted to disappear. But tonight isn't about the past. It's about the future, about new beginnings and second chances. I smiled directly at Monet. So I want to wish my wife and her boyfriend all the best in their new life together. May they find exactly what they deserve. The crowd erupted in applause, not polite charity event applause, genuine, enthusiastic clapping from people who just witnessed something extraordinary. Security appeared at Monet and Damien's elbows, politely but firmly escorting them toward the exits. The photographers outside were going to have a field day. Now then, I said, as the applause faded down, shall we begin the auction? The rest of the evening was a blur of successful bidding, congratulations, and carefully worded comments to reporters. We raised over $2 million for charity, broke several auction records, and created enough gossip to fuel Dallas society for months. But the best part came at the very end, when I was finally alone in the empty symphony hall, looking out at the rows of empty seats where Dallas elite had just witnessed the complete destruction of my wife's reputation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You won. Are you happy now? I typed back, I'm not happy, but I'm free. There's a difference. The response came immediately. I hate you. I know, I replied, but you'll get over it. You always do. I turned off my phone and walked out into the Dallas night, leaving behind 7 years of marriage, months of betrayal, and the most satisfying evening of my entire life. The rain started falling as I stood on the steps of the Meyerson Symphony Center, watching the last of the guests drive away in their expensive cars. Dallas in the rain always felt like a different city, softer, more forgiving, washed clean of its pretensions. My phone had been buzzing constantly since the auction ended 2 hours ago. Reporters, friends, business associates, all wanting to know what came next. I'd turned it off after the 15th call. Mr. Carrington? I turned to see Detective Barnes approaching from the parking garage. We'd met briefly during the whole gallery break-in incident, and he'd struck me as the kind of cop who actually paid attention to details. Detective, working late tonight? Got a call about a disturbance at your penthouse building. Thought you should know before you head home. What kind of disturbance? Your wife and her boyfriend tried to get into your building about an hour ago. When the doorman wouldn't let them up, she started screaming in the lobby. Building security called it in. I sighed. Are they still there? No, they left when my officers arrived. But Mr. Carrington? He paused. You might want to be careful. People do stupid things when they're desperate. I appreciate the warning. He nodded and walked back to his car, leaving me alone with the rain and my thoughts. I should have gone home. Should have called it a night and let the lawyers handle whatever came next. Instead, I found myself driving through downtown Dallas, past the gallery district, past the expensive restaurants where Monet and I used to have dinner, past all the places that had once meant something. I ended up at Clyde Warren Park, parked under a streetlight, watching the rain fall on the empty grass. This was where Monet and I had come on our second date, 7 years ago. She'd been different then, or maybe I'd just been too infatuated to see who she really was. My phone rang. Riley's number. Boss, I saw the news coverage. That was, intense. That's one word for it. Are you okay? I'm sitting in a park in the rain at midnight, contemplating the ruins of my marriage, so probably not. Want some company? Thanks, but I think I need to process this alone. Okay, but Julian? What you did tonight? It was brilliant. Brutal, but brilliant. After she hung up, I sat in the silence for a while, listening to the rain on my windshield. Tomorrow, the story would be in every newspaper in Texas. The society blogs would dissect every moment of the evening. My business would probably benefit from all the publicity, and Monet's career would be over. I'd won, completely and decisively. So why did I feel so empty? My phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. Meet me at the hotel. Room 237. We need to talk. M. Room 237. The same room where she'd planned to celebrate her freedom on our anniversary night. The irony was almost too perfect. I should have ignored the message, should have driven home, poured myself a drink, and started planning my new life as a divorced man. Instead, I found myself driving toward the Adolphus Hotel because apparently I was a glutton for punishment. The hotel lobby was nearly empty at this hour, just a few late-night travelers and a bored desk clerk. I took the elevator to the second floor, walked down the familiar hallway, and knocked on the door of room 237. Monet opened it immediately, like she'd been waiting by the door. She'd changed out of the red dress into jeans and a sweater, washed off her makeup, and looked more like the woman I'd married than she had in months. You came, she said, against my better judgment. The room was exactly what you'd expect from a luxury hotel. Elegant furniture, expensive linens, a view of downtown Dallas through floor-to-ceiling windows. Damien was nowhere to be seen. Where's your boyfriend? Gone. He left after your little performance tonight. She sat on the edge of the bed, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Said he couldn't handle the drama. Smart man. Is it? Because I think he's a coward, just like I think you're a coward. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm a coward? That's rich, coming from someone who spent months planning my betrayal instead of just asking for a divorce. You want to know why I cheated? She stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. Because you stopped seeing me. I became invisible in my own marriage. When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? When's the last time you touched me without it feeling like an obligation? When's the last time you gave me a reason to? That's not fair. Fair? I stepped closer. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to plan my humiliation while I was buying you jewelry? Was it fair to let me make anniversary dinner reservations while you were texting your ex-boyfriend? Was it fair to make me feel like I was losing my mind when I knew something was wrong but couldn't prove it? She was crying again, but this time it felt real instead of manipulative. I know I hurt you. You destroyed me, Monet. Not just tonight. Not just with the cheating. You've been destroying me piece by piece for years, making me feel like I was never enough, like everything I built, everything I achieved, was somehow inadequate because it didn't make you happy. That's not what I meant to do. But it's what you did. And tonight, everyone in Dallas got to see exactly what kind of person you really are. She sat back down, shoulders shaking. My career is over. My friends won't return my calls. Veronica sold me out to the gossip blogs for money. I have nothing left. You have your freedom. Isn't that what you wanted? Not like this. I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. You know what the funny thing is? I would have given you anything. If you'd just been honest with me, if you'd told me you were unhappy, if you'd asked for a divorce like a civilized person, I would have been generous. We could have split everything fairly, remained friends, moved on with our lives. And now? Now you get whatever my lawyer decides you deserve. Which, given the evidence of your adultery and the attempted theft, probably isn't very much." She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix anything." I turned to leave, but she called my name. "Julian, what happens now?" I paused at the door, looking back at the woman I'd once loved enough to marry. She looked broken, defeated, nothing like the confident socialite who'd walked into that symphony hall a few hours earlier. "Now you figure out who you are when you're not spending my money or living in my shadow. Maybe you'll discover you're someone worth knowing. Maybe you won't. And you? What will you do?" "I'll build something new, something real, something that can't be destroyed by someone else's lies." I opened the door, then paused. "Goodbye, Monet." "Goodbye, Julian." I walked down the hallway, past the elevator, down the stairs, and out into the rain. It was still falling, washing the streets clean, making everything look new and possible. My phone buzzed with one last text. "I really did love you. Once." I typed back, "I know. That's what makes this so sad." Then I deleted her number, got in my car, and drove home through the empty streets of Dallas, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and the woman who'd tried to destroy me. The rain was still falling when I reached my penthouse, but for the first time in months, it felt like it was washing away the past instead of drowning the future. I poured myself a drink, stood at my floor-to-ceiling windows, and looked out at the city I'd conquered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new possibilities. But tonight, I was free. And that was enough.